trying to explain you a little bit about details on how to show things on the screen. For starters, can we dim slightly the lights? Well, not directly also. One thing that is important when you have when you project things on the screen, instead of like sending the files to the student, is that this is a light source, so the colors on the screen need to be seen in the dark. If you have like lights on, then it's very hard to see, especially when you have like large auditoriums and students are in the back. I know that sometimes it's hard because students will kind of fall asleep as well, but then it's much better to see, like legibility-wise, it's better to read. You also need to try to use bright colors because it benefits from the idea of using a light source instead of like pale colors. I'm going to give a little bit introduction about me. L'Oreal was saying that I teach at the Harvard Art School. That's correct. I started last year. My Master in Fine Arts degree is from the University of Texas at Austin, and my Bachelor in Fine Arts is from the University of Buenos Aires. I'm from Argentina originally. And my research is on universal design and the use of senses for experiences. So it's important for me how someone acquires information, like students in a classroom, how they interpret like visual communication, like slides or anything that we present, besides other type of sensory acquisition. The way I see that it's important for us to acquire information is like regarding accessibility, how you create accessible environments. So for me, it's like I try to apply that in all experiences, teaching and lecturing. So accessibility, for the ones who are not familiar with, is the quality of being at hand when needed, but it's the attribute of being easy to meet or deal with. So if something is easy, like a professor is accessible to students, that is a good definition. If a slideshow presentation has like too many things, too many visuals, small type, a lot of information, that is not accessible. So the learning is affected, the communication is affected. And a few principles about accessible design that are important are the perceptibility, when everyone can perceive design regardless of abilities, of sensory abilities. So if you make things large on the screen, it will be easier to someone to read them. Don't try to pack too many things on one slide. You could have many slides and then make the pace of your lecture more engaging, because if you have one slide for 5 minutes where students have to read them, they will probably get distracted very easily. But if you are changing slides because you have one term and small definition and then another slide with something else, then that affects them to like have to pay attention. Because the professor is going at a fast pace, you have to pay attention to the screen. Then the operability is when everyone can use the design. And in this case, having something that is easy to interpret, and then you can provide this on your website or Blackboard, and then they can go through your presentation. That's how I see this term for this specific lecture that presentation that I'm doing. They will be able to get your document. So instead of having in a PowerPoint presentation, export as a PDF, so then they can open in any computer or campus, Macs or PCs. If you have a PowerPoint, not all the computers on campus have PowerPoint installed. For example, in my lab at the Harvard Art School, we only have a PowerPoint in one computer in the lab, and then the other 22 computers don't have it. So students use PDF. Simplicity is like, if you make it simple, regardless of the literacy level, someone who is in an intro class or someone who is in a very advanced class will be able to understand it. And then you will provide, with your lecture, you will provide the content that makes the terms kind of sink into the student minds. And forgiveness, that is kind of like a little bit far-fetched, but I tried to incorporate in this presentation as well, is that when the designs minimize the occurrence and consequences of errors. So if your design is straightforward, then students won't have misinterpretations of what you try to communicate. Let's say if you create your PowerPoint presentation in a way that if the student didn't go to the lecture, then they will be able to understand it without missing something that, I don't know, you just put a question mark. And it's like what that question mark meant. The student wasn't there, so I know it's important that students are presented in the lectures, but if the student wasn't there, that question mark won't mean anything. So always try to put some element that reflects back to the principles that you were teaching. And then you provide the anecdotes when you are in the lecture. So these are some of the slides that I received. I'm going to pass them quickly. You have the screens.
If I could just say one thing, that slide looks very different on my computer than it does in the classroom.
Maybe, yeah. Well,
I guess there's no standardization that enables you to keep the same kind of colors moving from a laptop to a projection unit, I guess.
It could be, or it could be like when PowerPoint interprets the thing, from the other PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. And which PowerPoint program do you have?
2003.
This is 2007, I think.
Yeah.
Could he have a template that he's using for by default that's not carried over with this?
Could be. Do you have like something on the background as templates?
I chose a specific combination of 3 colors to give me the kind of background I wanted. It looks very rich on the laptop, but it's all bleached out here. It's kind of a wheat color shade. And I've been in several classrooms. I can't reproduce it.
Oh, so it's just an issue of translating it from your laptop screen to there, as opposed from projection.
That's right.
That's right.
So when you have this presentation on your computer, you see all the different colors.
And it varies from computer to computer too. So not the projection system. The projection system is apparently.
I think that the best way to solve that issue is that if you create like an image, that you save it as an image embedded within your file instead of using like a specific setting of your preferences. Because if you create an image, it's as if you were importing a photograph to your presentation. And then it will carry through different platforms and different computers.
Well, I'm wondering if it's an issue that's sort of more basic to projection itself. That is that the colors are just going to come out with differently when they're sort of more focused on your laptop than they are going to be on a projector.
Well, the difference is that the laptop emits light, so you see more vibrant colors, and the projector is projecting light on a surface, so there's like some transmission that is lost. And the further you are, the more like the image is going to blend in. So that's why I said it's important that you choose very bright colors, because when you project, it looks very different. Sometimes I have things with my students, I ask them to create presentations, and they come up with this, very nice layout, but then when they project it, it's very dim.
That's right.
Because they look for pale colors or, like thin lines, and those things are not going to show up, because the source of the information is transmitted in a different way than the computer to their faces.
I guess what I was going to say, if I had to do it again, I probably would have come in and chosen the colors in the classroom with the projection unit that I wanted, and make sure they look good there, and then whatever happened on my home computer, care less.
Do you store them as pack and go or just as a PowerPoint?
Just PowerPoint.
Does the pack and go carry all the colors?
Is it? Okay, I don't know anything about these things, so Paul, you're up next for our next presentation. I don't know. These are all things I don't know how to do.
I'm going to pass some of these slides so I can make comments about things. There are like, when you created this presentation, how long ago was it?
The latest version of it, you mean? I'd say about 6 months, a year ago, probably last summer.
Because this is about like voting, right? The whole
Voting,
topic.
yes. Yeah.
So this presentation, well, we see that he's using, there's a headline here, like bottom headline, that address what we are seeing on the screen and the information. And I guess when you are like talking about this, you are explaining what's going on the screen.
That's a voting slide, as it turns out, with the clickers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So this is for transmitting to students how...
They're supposed to sit down and do some voting now, right?
Okay. So, and you use also transitions. I'm not very, honestly, I'm not very fond of transitions because of the problem of transportability. Like, if you send me the file, I may not be able to open it here. So then it comes to, okay, will you export it as a PDF, and then the transitions are lost. So if I create transitions for my presentations and I'm going to give them to my students, it's pointless because they won't be able to see them in a PDF. So I try to avoid transitions as much as I can. If it's a one-time presentation that you are going to do like at a conference, for example, then you can use transitions because what you want to do is impact your audience, and then sometimes the transitions will benefit for that engaging experience. But if you have to put them available for later use, then you come into the problem of, oh, well, depending on the platform that the other people have, or like the current version of the software, they won't be able to see exactly the same. So if you're concerned about what the user, what your audience is looking at, then be careful if you use transitions.
Just a clarification of terms. Are you referring to that arrow there?
No, I'm referring about the things that were like typed in the screen when I started presenting.
When you say transition, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
Let me go back. These are called transitions. It's coming from something that the screen is blank, and then information is appearing.
It's an animation of some sort. I mean,
Yeah.
very famous.
But you got to distinguish between using this as a tool, as a teaching device to your class, versus trying to put it for other people to use it and reuse it.
Yeah.
If you give these things up, you're losing the strength of what these do to require visual contact, interaction between the student and the screen and you.
Yeah,
So,
that's why I said
I'm not sure about trading.
if you're going to provide this later for your students in a PDF file, this won't work the same way. So you may happen, and it happens to me before, that there's something that appears like plurality, and then the rest is not there because the two other sentences won't, disappear when you export the file as a PDF. So again, it goes back to how you present this. If this is a one-time event and you don't provide the information to your students, like available as a Blackboard, then you can do this because this is for the one-time opportunity in the classroom, or like if the lectures are being taped, so then they go and they're on Blackboard as well. But if you are like in my case, all the presentations I try to do for my students, I give them the files so they can go back and look at them. And that's when I have to save them, in a portable way so they can open it in the lab or in their own computers. But I made a clarification of, what elements are more like easier to reproduce in different platforms. But as I said, if you are like using your computer with your technology and you present in your classroom, and you won't do that again and again, and like other people will use it, then you can play with it, play with the application. In the program I use in Keynote, we also have these things that we create and things that come out and go on the screen, but I don't use them very frequently. I only will use it like a couple of times, and with pictures, just try to something that appears and disappears instead of text. And that again comes for people who have learning disabilities. Like if a student has dyslexia, it will have some hard time trying to read this information that appears on the screen. And depending on how fast you move from this slide to the next slide, they may have lost the whole thing that happened because it went too fast. Here, the one thing that I wanted to mention is when you use slides, for legibility purposes, because you are using the screen, like in this case a projector screen, it's better if you use sans serif fonts instead of serif fonts. These are called serif fonts when they have the little terminals with these shapes. And in my other presentation, I was trying to incorporate like one of these with an example of how this looks in a serif font, in a sans serif font that doesn't have anything. It's like the IBM typeface, it's very straight. And I'm going to show you in a couple of screens examples of that typeface. Why is that? Because it's easier to read when there's on the screen things that are doesn't have terminals or little details. This typeface, this font, is easier to read on paper. it's much easier to read because it helps the eye to follow on a pattern on a page. But when it's on the screen, the legibility is much better when it's not this typeface. And I'm going to go very soon on that. About the headline that Ray is using on the bottom, this is a little bit small, and depending on your classroom setting, it may happen that your podium is here and there's something else, and then they won't see this. So you need to make it either slightly bigger or like more like higher on the screen. Or the other way that you could do it is use it, if this is like reference for all this that is going on, maybe you could have it on the side, and then you have your headline. It's a way to show it. Like, for example, I was in a presentation on Wednesday, and all of the information that they were presenting, most of the things were here on the bottom, and they were cut by the image on the screen. The projector was located in a way that it was, the screen didn't continue, and it had like the wall. So the legibility was jeopardized because we didn't read whatever was in the bottom part. So it's very important how you address your slide so you figure out where you are going to present. If your classroom provides like for a good view of your slide, that's fine. This is great. This is a good way, and you are proximate to the screen, so you could see this, you could read it. But if this was Mali Auditorium in Dana, where in Dana, right? If this was a Mali Auditorium on the other side of the building, this will be very hard to read from the back. And some students may not be able to follow it. Right?
Yeah, in fact, FCLD has got exactly that problem. In which classroom you can't see anything on the bottom corner of the screen, on a corner.
It has to do with the fact that when you build the classrooms with these projectors, they didn't exist when they built them. You need a tall ceiling to do and so they built the library without thinking they were going to put a projector in that ceiling at some point.
Natasha, are there any rules about the context ought to be within a rectangle of a certain size compared to the screen? In other words, the margins ought to be of a certain width and the top bottom side?
There are no specific rules when you do presentations, but in general, you want to leave some margin on the screen. And if you divide the screen like in 6 columns, then you want to have like half of one of the 6 columns. Like if we divided 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, then it will be like half of the screen, or almost like one half of that one column.
On both sides. On both sides.
On both sides. So you don't want things very close because again we run into the problem of how the projector is placed. Like sometimes I don't know where I'm going to present. Like I didn't know that this was the room. I was thinking in the other room. So I always try to leave enough margin on for the text. Images is not the same because images can cut on the screen. But for text, you want to have things inside the main area of view, and especially because the way projectors work, the main focus of the projector is around here. The further you are in a room, the more out of focus this will become. So that's important to consider. If you are like presenting in a large conference, then you will have problems on the sides. They will lose legibility. They will become blurry. And again, like showing things very close to the bottom. So try to incorporate everything, like leaving. I would say if you interpret this in terms for your screen, for your computer screen, think of 1/2 inch from all sides. If you want people to read it, if you look at your finger and put 1/2 inch around your screen in your laptop. So in here, there's some information. Ray is using, I would say, a reasonable amount of information. You don't want to go and put too much information on the screen because you want the reader, the viewer, to be able to read and then also pay attention to what you're saying. And I don't know how is your technique for teaching in classrooms, but it's very good that you don't read whatever is on the screen exactly and then you just follow to the next slide. I've seen that done many times, and we're supposed to, what's the purpose of having a slideshow and then read whatever is on the screen? Then we present something, there are outlines, and then we go and continue on the presentation. So unless we have to do a remark on some quote or some information that is very important, then we can read it. But the students are reading it. We don't need to read it aloud. We just continue on the information. And don't go more than 3 bullet points, as they are here, like 1, 2, 3, because that is enough information for one slide. Usually try to keep like 2 to 3 bullet points, unless you have 6 bullet points but like short amount of words. Let's say 4 or 5 words. If there's too much to read, then you get distracted. It's so much information. And as I said again, it's a presentation that someone is also talking at the same time as showing slides. So it's too many things that someone has to acquire at the same time, like the auditory learning and the visual learning, and the distractions in the classroom. Yes?
What about the benefits of sequencing the dots in as you go rather than just putting them all over the screen at first?
I tend to prefer, because of what I said before, like when someone has certain learning disabilities, it's easier for them to follow the information, like adaptive learning that you could say, one after the other, is good, but it may not benefit everyone in the classroom. So if you show some things, like this all together, in this case, it will be easier. Like for me, for example, I tend to read very fast. So I will read this, and then this, and then this, and then I will go back and read them again. And someone will be like still reading the first line when I finish for the third. But in this way, I kind of like go and do an overview of what is there, and then I read again with more detail. So it depends on your audience, the students you have, and what is the content that you are transmitting. As I said, I tend to prefer to put things all together in the screen and give time while I'm talking on what I'm showing. Unless, again, as I want to create impact, showing something like, out of the blue, like, hey, here. But that's good. I try to do that when I try to make something fun, make something fun. So it's like the unexpected reaction or surprise. In that case, I will use it.
Shouldn't you be controlling the rate at which students read? So instead of filling the entire screen at once, shouldn't you have things come on a word at a time and then dim? That'll force them into the pace you want. And if they're learning disabled, they're going to see things as they appear. Remember, it's an issue of perception.
Mm-hmm.
So they can misperceive, but if it appears word by word, it's very hard for them to misperceive. That's what students tell me.
Yeah, as I said, it depends. Like my experience when I was working with people with disabilities in Texas for my graduate studies, I worked on visual impairment. And then on visual impairments in general, not just blindness. And they were telling me that they have a hard time when someone shows, I was trying with different presentations that they have for the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and actually in their presentations they have things like very slow and the pace comes and 3 seconds after there's another thing. And one person once told me it's not that we can't read, the thing is the pace sometimes affects our learning. So I would say that if you leave the information on the screen, present on the screen, they manage the time when they read it. I'm not sure how in psychology that could be addressed. I don't know if Catherine, you know anything about cognitive learning, and if pacing it may help for certain abilities. But the experience I had before was that they said, well, if I have the opportunity to read everything, then I can go back and reread it. But if the professor is showing, or if someone is showing something and then it disappears, it's harder to read. In the previous slides, or I guess in this one, it's going to work the same. Things appear, and then we hear the speaker talking and showing things. So the pace that, for example, now this went away. What happened if I was just reading this, I was looking through these numbers, and I couldn't read what was happening with this little character. So showing something and then that the thing moves away or disappears, it may be problematic if someone is not following, with all their 100% senses to the screen. Or just, I don't know how long it took to, let's see, let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seconds about 5 seconds, and then it disappears. So if that student was like checking their Facebook account on their laptop, with their computer, then they didn't get that far, and that's a problem. So I tend to prefer to have things on the screen, and then I move to the next slide.
Isn't that an argument for presenting handouts with the slides before class?
Yes, if you do that, that's great. I don't know if all the professors do that. I don't present handouts before class.
Well, you present them with three slides and 3 spaces aside, and you take out critical words, so they're forced to take notes, and especially highlighted words, so they need to fill something in.
Yeah, I think that's very valuable, but I don't know if all the professors do that. I don't necessarily do that in my presentations because I provide all the information on Blackboard, so students can go and get
But that's after the fact,
Yes.
as opposed to before the fact.
Yes, and I also
Because eventually the printing cost can be a small fortune.
and I don't know, like
They don't have to
for example, in my school, I have to print my stuff and I have to get paper. So for printing stuff for the students. So what I do is I provide everything digital. I don't waste any paper. They have their own notepads and notebooks, and they have to write down. And most of my students use their laptops and take notes on their laptops. Sometimes as they take notes on their laptops, as I said, they check their email accounts. So I prefer, this is the audience I interact with. Computer oriented, they are all with their laptops everywhere. So they tend to put their notes and then they share their notes. Or they use their sketchbooks. In the class sketchbook, like the regular notepads where they do their drawings, they also take notes. So I don't print out handouts, but then I provide the slides available on Blackboard. If you do that, that's also helpful for them because they can take notes directly on your handout. It depends on how you use your lecturing presentation slides with your whole lecture experience. Yes.
Yeah, I'm slightly dyslexic, and I find that the motion focuses me on what you're trying to talk about, and when you got all 3 sentences up there, I wasn't sure which one I'm supposed to be looking at, because I get confused and trying to follow. So the counter argument is, you can get my attention if you have something fade in, and then leave it. Then I'll know exactly where you are.
So then you can follow exactly that.
Otherwise, I'm like, where is she? She's got 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I also do is usually I like to have a pointer, and then I make sure that people are following what I'm talking about. Like I feel kind of like I don't have something, I'm missing something when I don't have the pointer because I can tell you, well, now we are looking at this and look at the red in the screen. No. There. So that's one of the things, like trying to help the students look at whatever I am looking at, whatever I'm talking about. But your point is good too.
I was just going to give a historical background to the revealing of the bullets one at a time was kind of what I call the military style. And it was what the military did when they did overhead projectors. They actually would put their overhead slide on and have sometimes little windows, and they would flap them one by one to reveal them. And I think when PowerPoint was developed, they took and the military did a lot of work on presentation. They did a lot of training. They were the trainers. They still are. They're very heavily invested in it. And I think whoever developed PowerPoint looked at that and said, what are they doing in overheads? Let's make it available in PowerPoint and have the reveal so they can reveal it bullet. And I'm sure that historically that's probably where that comes from.
Like here, for example, what is your name?
Lee?
Yeah, Lee. Lee was saying that having something shown, then your attention is grabbed here, then you know what we're talking about, and then something else appears,
Those are the blanks you were talking about, Paul.
or things appear. So I've seen also other presentations that people remove the information, and then there's something else. Again, I think it's better like as an adaptive release, that if you are going to show this transition from point 1 to point 3, then you show the 3 of them. It will be much easier to follow the pace of the lecture.
Show all 3 at once?
you could do like all three at once, or show them like as you're doing right now, like one after the other, and they stay. But if you have the last one, don't make it go away too soon.
Yeah.
You know, like you kind of like explain on what you are showing. Like the little guy, I had the issue with the little guy because it just went away too fast.
Yeah, I can put that on a click. I was trying to animate the whole thing, but I'm realizing that's very hard to do because of the pace of the class. So I put many more clicks into the thing. That's like in control when things move as I watch the students out there, see if they've got it. And then so that's a challenge.
The other thing that I noticed in here is this one is blinking for some reason. I probably if you want to remark, how to that. So instead of just making it like that, put color. If you have something that you want people to grab attention, put color around, make it like red or make it like yellow, something bright. Don't use red over green or green over red, because those combinations don't work well. Basically, they are colors that in the range, in the scale range, they will merge, they will blend, and you can't read them. Or the same happens with red and blue. Red and blue or blue and red. But if you're going to highlight something, put colors around. In this case, the act of highlighting is by removing. So it's good because you're removing the things that are not necessary, and then we are left with the rest. But if the other ones that were blinking, if you highlight them, it's much better. I'm going to switch to the other slides.
Just terminology again, highlighting, you mean highlight the whole box or just a number, or what gets highlighted?
Highlighting.
Coloring the two blocks, you mean?
Just coloring the blocks, is that what you mean?
Coloring, like if those things were like highlighted, like the box,
Yeah, I think I know.
the background of the,
Highlight pen,
instead
just
of white, instead of
Yeah.
white, like you put it yellow.
Yeah.
But like, for example, yellow and black with the text in black will work better.
Yeah.
Don't use like red and then the text, the 9 and the 10 in black, because that will be hard to read.
How easy is gray to read?
Gray.
So I was thinking, if you fade out the stuff that's not able to leave a little piece of it in gray and have the right color of what was important, then you can talk about why you chose the red ones and why you didn't choose the gray ones. So is gray easy to see?
Gray, yes, depending on what percentage of gray.
Right.
If you use like 80% of gray, it's going to be legible. If you use like 40%, then you have the problem of the visibility when the projection works in the screen. Here again, I'm going back to what I mentioned earlier about the things on the bottom of the screen. And this is a font this is the sans serif font that I talked about earlier. It's much easier to read. This is quite big on the screen, but it's much easier to read than the previous one, especially when you are in an auditorium, in a large auditorium, when the previous slides were very legible because we are like close to the projection screen. But if you are in a large auditorium, then it's better that you use sans serif font.
It's a different font, but it's bright, light, like yellow on blue, better than dark on white, like black on white.
In general, it's interesting that question because I've been reading a lot about that having dark background with bright typeface like yellow or white is much easier to read because you are in a dark environment, right? We need like the darkness. So you are in the dark environment, so this will be easier to read. But at the same time, there are people who have mentioned that they have difficulties reading certain colors. So if you use white or yellow, that's going to be fine. If you use other colors, then the legibility could be a problem. Because the nature of the projection is darkness, then if you use black or a dark gray for the background, it's going to be easier to read.
What about color blindness?
Color blindness? Well, that goes back to the, don't use green and red because they are exactly alike. Like the problem is why stoplights have positions and lights, because we know that the red is on top and the green is on the bottom. If they were in the same place, then the colorblind people will know which one is which.
So colorblind is a green-red issue?
Yes, it's a green-red issue. Well, there are a couple of other distinctions, but mostly like 80% of the people who have color blindness can distinguish between red and green.
And it's a significant number of people.
It's a significant number, but it's like mostly male. There's very rare women, female having color blindness. In here, the one thing that I also wanted to mention is like having like large text on the screen is good, especially depending on how much information you're going to have. Again, it depends on your lecture environment. In this case, I think that typeface is too big for the area where you are located. I'm kind of like blowing away with this typeface. The other one was like more reasonable for the presentation environment. If you don't know exactly how big is going to be your lecture room because you're going to a new place, then you probably want to go in a midterm, between this one and then average between this one and the previous size, so you can control it. Maybe like 16-point size on your computer. This one will be too big for this classroom, but it will be reasonable for like here. You see, huge typeface. But in another classroom, in a large auditorium with 300 students, this is much better for reading. Then let me switch again.
I have to tell you, Natasha, this was my first version.
Oh, really?
And I had two art students who told me after the first day, I was in a small classroom with half the size of this in depth. They told me after the first class, too many primary colors, giving us headaches. I mean, we were crammed into the screen. So I changed it to the lighter background with a darker font.
Well, the thing is, as I said, I've been reading, there's from the Lighthouse Institute that are based in New York, they explore, they research on issues of visibility, legibility, for visual impairments. And there's a presentation that they have, and if you are interested, I can point you to that link later. It's on reading information. And then they say, well, if you're going to make a presentation where you present with a PowerPoint, like a projector, then use a dark background because the legibility is enhanced. If you use a lighter background, it's going to be harder. So it depends. There are like many theories, I would say.
Yeah.
I just want to put in. I think the real benefit of a light background is consciousness. That is, I think we actually will get sort of instantly sleepier the darker the room gets. I think it happens to all of us, and just having that much more light with a white screen, I think
Also,
is
you
a real
don't
benefit.
You got to set the thing up so that it can be going on with full light. Make sure that you read it with full light. This, won't be.
Yeah. Well, I turn off my lights on my lab. Like the classroom I teach is very different. It's like 2 rows of the tables, but it's like very narrow. And then the students it's this space. This is my classroom. The projector is there, and the students are sitting on the computers. So that's where I project. So we turn off the lights, and they look at it. But it's a different classroom environment. They can't fall asleep too much because I am very close to them, so I can see they're paying attention. And the other thing that I do is I have my remote control, and I move the slides and I go to the back of the room, so I kind of move around. I like to this setting, for example, it's not comfortable for me because I can't see the projection. I will be over there with the remote control and passing the slides. So then I can talk, I can move around and talk to you and look at the screen and make sure that whatever I'm showing the screen makes sense with what I'm saying. But this way I have to look again constantly and kind of lose your focus, your attention. So having darkness depends on the environment where you are teaching. It's again, goes back to the experiences. Depending on the environment you are, how you can enhance the experience, the sensory experience. If you make it too dark, they will probably fall asleep, especially after lunch. That's a hard time to teach. When you have images, make sure that they don't do this, overlapping. Well, this I guess is a mistake of the image overlapping over the text, but try to put them in a way that they are scaled down. And if you want to grab attention to people reading this information, then leave this one alone and make the other ones coming up afterwards. And I'm going to show you with the other presentation that I have. So these are like examples, kind of like fun examples, that things we don't want to do.
No, for sure.
Right? Never ever do this. No, this is, no, it's like too much information. And this is, ironically, this is from an accessibility presentation. Someone who is supposed to know about issues of accessibility for people who have visual impairments, and it's like, this is ridiculous. So, this is sensory overstimulation. Again, don't put too much information. I'm like, this is like, the worst case scenario when you don't have to do things. Images that are like plates floating around, graphics that go and overlap. Here we have background, that's a blue kind of sky background with blue text, and then like this shadow over there. Too many bullet points, too big of a typeface for so many items in the screen. It actually looks horrible. This is another example of images that are again problematic. Why they have to be all that big? Maybe they are like this tiny, and we will recognize the logo, so we don't need to have all big and overlapping. If you have graphics, these they are kind of squeezed because I was trying to put the slides together with the banner on the bottom. Graphics that present information and a chart. And pay attention when you create these charts, how the information is placed on the graphic, because this is a problem. Maybe you put arrows that they show the numbers bigger on the screen, and the arrow points to exactly where the place. It's talking about like this 18. We assume that it's on the gray area. But what if there's an arrow pointing and bigger 18 here? And this legend on the bottom part, and then we can refer to it. We don't need a frame around it. We just need the color coding and the text. More about the same thing. You see, like this chart has a lot of problems on legibility of the numbers. Like the graphic represents percentages, but if we are talking about specific numbers, then there's a problem. So this is a presentation, like a long slide. And what I'm trying to do is compare with different things. Instead of recreating a slide, I'm using like old slides that I created before. And this one shows civilians with disabilities as a statistic, and then the numbers. And basically, in the presentation, I would say, there are 24 million people, about like 25 million people that have a disability, not a severe disability. And then I, show with the graphic, and there's predominance on the screen for that graphic. And then when you have a list of stuff, then, here, for example, in this case, I put too many things on the screen. So I was trying to convey so much about statistics because of the previous chart that there are too many texts that I have to go and kind of like, okay, where are we? As Lee was pointing out. I am talking about in here or in here, there's so many details. So maybe the adaptive release that Ray was using could be helpful for this amount of information, or splitting up, or making short bullet points. Yes?
What about putting a table?
A table?
So that you have like the numbers in one column and text in another column, and then the follows we get information.
That could help if the design of the table facilitates understanding of the learner. Sometimes people get too much involved with tables, and then it looks more as a chart than like presenting the information. So if you have 2 columns, 3 columns maximum, Yeah, 2 would be the idea. How you put pictures? You could use images that they go and kind of bleed out on the screen, and then you have your main title and introduction, and then you divide. This is from last year. Then you divide. This is like I'm going to introduce you to the next topic. So this is a chart. Then I come to the next one instead of just putting everything together.
Did you create the background on that yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are those pictures running off the last one? Did the picture run off the edge of the screen to the right?
Which one? The previous one?
Previous slide. I mean, was that done? It looks like is that intentionally to draw one's attention to the next slide, for example?
Yes, and also because the picture ends there, so there's no more picture after
That's
that.
it. Oh, that's not cropped, and that's not over extended somehow.
Yeah. The photograph runs.
Just like that.
Yeah, it's like that. And the thing about this image is that we were going on a workshop of cell phone interfaces. So then I wanted to continue on the next screen. And this one, this example is when I was teaching universal design, I was showing an image of universal design with an example saying, okay, these power door sensors help people with like cars or shopping carts and wheelchairs to navigate the space. So then I give one of the principles for universal design and provide 2 examples with an image. Because if someone didn't get what I said, looking at the image, it's evident that they will understand, yes, that's the principle, makes sense, I look at the example. So if you have examples that you can provide with images, they will help for the people who are visual learners.
I see you did in a horizontal format for this in the previous slide versus the traditional vertical. Is there any good comment on that? Why?
When you mean horizontal, what do you
Well,
talk?
it's my eyes are looking across, as opposed to most slides my eyes are looking down. So
Well-
like there's a design aspect of that. Sure.
The one thing that, as I said, the slides are sort of little squish because this is where the slide ended originally. This is like the banner for this presentation. So in general, you want to spread the information on the screen. You don't want to put like kind of a page layout, if that's what you mean by vertical.
Vertical is just the list. Like if you didn't have a picture on put the picture on the right at the bottom, say, then it would be a vertical presentation. This is
Well, you could lay out your screen in different ways. It's ideal that since you have like a horizontal landscape, then you take advantage of that. Take advantage of that. If you put it on the bottom, it's as if you were using a book page, and you have information here. But sometimes we have this as a white space. So instead of putting the image on the bottom, put it on the side. Make your sentences shorter, which are easier to read. There's one thing that I always tell my students: if you have like a very long line, usually like it's about 10 words per line that someone will read, and then they have to kind of like go back to the other line. You read a sentence, then you end the sentence, and then you go back, and then that's the moment where your eyes will get lost. So depending on the amount of information you have to read on a page or on the screen, if it's too long of a sentence, like 10, 12 kind of like the maximum, depending on how shorter words you have. Like if you have for all users, those are short words. Convenient, adaptable are longer words. So if you have many short words, that make 12 words per line. And in that way, when you read it, it won't be like, ooh, to the other side of the screen, right?
Is it true that a person's eyes will go to the graphic first if they see graphic and text on a slide?
Yes, they will go to the graphic first.
Is there any reason, therefore, to put graphics to the left into the upper portion if that's where they're going to go anyway, because that's the normal way they read, or not?
Yeah, based on just a theory that usually you have in visual communication, you have, this is the focus of attention when you're looking at the page or the screen. So if you have something here, try to make that relevant if you put something there. Like in my case, I with this information here, I could have it there, but I'd rather have it in numbers of pages because it shows like a progression. Sometimes I put a number and then I put like slash out of 30, so I can tell my viewers that I'm going to be about 30 slides. Bear with me, I'm in the middle of the presentation. But if you use an image, you don't necessarily have to use it on the bottom of the screen. You can have it on the side. Originally, because we read from left to right, it's easier that you put text here and images on this side instead of the other way
Well,
around.
it's interesting. So you look at the graphic, then you have to go back, in a sense, against the grain, go back and read your text.
Yes, but it's like the way you see the image is that it kind of like goes, it's predominant, but then you have the text. So you read it kind of side by side. Your image is still going to be more predominant. This comes from another presentation from a colleague, and I like the idea that what they did of putting the text on the blackboard is a clever idea. Like, as a designer, I would like go and erase this and I will make it like as a blackboard. But in this case, it provides a little bit of legibility issues. So instead, it would have been better having the text running in here and maybe like a couple of sentences instead of filling in the blackboard page. If you want to create impact with images, then show, and if you have the right images and big, nice, pretty images, show the images large on the screen. It will be more impactful for a presentation, especially if there are photographs. I'm not talking about charts, things like that, but if there are photographs, and then one sentence or something like quick and short, and then you move to the next screen. It's going to be more present in their minds, that image big, that tiny and small. And instead of filling up with a lot of images, we see these cute kids. This is from a project that I'm currently working on with engineers. This is big and we can see these faces. And then there are tons of little kids here that are harder to see the pictures. Make it big and more predominant. So then we concentrate on the impact of this photograph. The one photograph can make more impression than having 3 or 4 at the same time, smaller. This is another example of how you can organize information. If you have a lot of details, this is a biography about Le Corbusier, having a photograph, things, bullet points, kind of like a setup frame. Make it that, okay, the bullet points reduce the amount of text, spread them out so there's more line between each one, and then make one photograph more like bigger and predominant and the information more legible. And because we are showing a biography or whatever you are talking about, make like a title that relates to what you're showing. If this was a presentation architecture that you have, you are talking about this house, the Domino house by Le Corbusier, then okay, make the title, this is the Domino house, the location, because the student may not have caught when you said the name of the city where it's located. Put one picture and then the outline of what the characteristics of this place is. In this case, architecture. And this is a very complex diagram. But interestingly, it's hard when you want to convey something like this visually. How will you do it? Will you like run arrows that start moving? I've seen this type of diagrams in many presentations, especially design presentations, where I would say if you have something like this, first of all, be careful with the color. Like this would have worked better if you use like a darker background, and like blacker, I would say. And don't put like text around because this is already too complex. So maybe when Ray was using this adaptive release, this information, this blurb of information could appear and then present and then disappear as you go around the rules, the case, the testing, and the things. So then your main information will be the boxes and then like the lines where it talks about the conduction, the world. So all these texts will disappear as you move around the presentation. I've seen this in a couple of conferences that people come up with these beautiful graphics and then we don't know where we have to read. And then a couple of like examples of different ways to do things. This is a serif font, again, that I'm using here, but the type of font is like bolder on the screen, so I'm trying to grab more attention, and I'm not using it as much as to read the whole thing, it's just more like headlines and titles. And then I turn into sans serif font, a font that is easier to read with a smaller type. And
What font is that? I'm sorry.
images will go better with this graphic over there on the bottom of the screen. Then make things fun. This goes back to the other presentation, the other slide of cell phones. Because I was telling students that they have to design cell phone interfaces accessible by everyone, I used a picture of a dog, chewing the phone. Of course, they laughed when they saw. This was like when I assigned the assignment that I gave them later a handout, so they could see on the screen, and I start presenting what they have to do. But I put a picture of it. So if you have the opportunity to do that, that's helpful for engaging your audience. And information, and you want people to follow you. But the other thing that I wanted to point out is this is like a navigation of